Hello, my name is Susan Rose, and welcome to All About Artist. And today we have a special guest, Jaden Ferrin. Hi, Jaden.
Hi, good to be here.
Yes. But before we start, I want to thank Matthew Tucker, Joanne Hurlbert, Nicole Brown for their valuable assistance because without them, there would be no show. Jaden, what did you do? What did you do with the collages you made before you took a break?
Before I took a break from collaging 10 years ago, I threw away all the collages, recycled them, and got rid of all my collage materials, recycled them, donated them, and then was left without any materials until I started collaging again about 5 or 6 years ago.
When did you start collaging?
I started collaging again about 7 years ago. I met a woman in a group that I was in, and we were talking afterwards, and she mentioned that she liked collage. So I said, "Oh, I used to collage." And she said, "Well, if you ever want to come over and do some collaging." I went over there, and she was generous and gave me her materials, and and then I started accumulating my own materials, and that's how I started collaging again. I don't really remember how I started the first time. I think it was just putting up pictures of things and then putting things together.
Jaden, what did you do with your old collages?
I got rid of them, I recycled them.
Was there a time when you stopped collaging? If so, how did you go back to it?
I stopped collaging about 10 years ago, and I went back to it when I met a woman in a group I was in, and we started collaging.
How have you collage changed over time? How has your collage changed?
Well, one thing that's changed is before I used to just put like pages, sort of squares together. And over time, I just started to cut more and more detail so that almost like paper dolls, really cutting fine and cutting out background that I wouldn't use. So my friend calls it fussy cutting. And I think it's a lot of fun, and it just makes it so things get to almost interplay, and it's almost like the characters can interact, like the people and animals and everything. They can really get up close instead of being on pages apart.
I remember paper dolls.
Yeah,
It's
kind
funny
of.
you brought that up, and I used to do that. I'd forgotten all about it. That was a lot of fun. Where did you get all your material for your collaging?
I used to get them at the library because you could get used magazines there that people didn't want, and that's where I would put mine. And I also had a friend who collaged, and she would give me the magazines she didn't like. But she moved away, and the museum stopped carrying old magazines. And magazines have become expensive. So a couple of times, like I subscribed to the trials for magazines. I get brochures, I get old books and sacrilege, cut them up, and like from the Goodwill or used books, all kinds of things, posters hanging up that aren't in use any longer. So a lot of different sources. And now also I use old collages that I don't want anymore, and I cut those up and sort of recycle them by putting them into a new collage.
Oh, that's a great idea to use your own material to make another
Yeah,
one. Yes, I like that. That's really
recycling
thinking.
recycled materials.
And what do you think about wild collaging? What goes on in your mind, or does your mind kind of shut off, or in a meditative state, or what goes on?
It's very meditative. I think of fitting pieces together, like where could one picture begin and the other, and like looking for shapes that are in common. Or I think like what color is needed here, and then what do I have of my materials that's that color. It feels like just putting pieces together that are supposed to be together. But I also like to put a couple of things that don't fit. Like some of my collages, there will just be things that um like one is a garden scene and then there's a big bassoon in the middle of it without anyone playing it. It's just kind of weird things that um a kind of whimsical touch.
I see some collages or something behind you. You do have a lot. I think we have a couple of great collages to show pretty soon there. Jaden, oh, there we go. Here's one, Jaden. Can you see that?
Yeah, I remember this one. It's got there's some also calendars. I forgot to mention calendars. Then there's a magazine with this woman swimming in the middle of it, and then so these are advertisements. And then I've got this person stepping out with a guitar, some stairs. I can remember making this and sort of trying to think of colors going together. And then you've got this big bright flower in the bottom corner, and it doesn't really fit in the undersea world. But and then you've got a Hummel figure playing violin sort of in the middle of it. And that was a lot of fun to make. I had a big book of Hummel figurines, and I was really into them for a while. And then there's a tarot card in the back. Um, so yeah, all kinds of different sources.
Oh, that's beautiful. What is that little, what that red mark there? The red, there was like a little red there, right there, the red,
Oh yeah,
what's that? I
that
can't
was
see it that well.
I think a sticker from something. I
Oh,
don't remember what it was from.
it almost looks like a rose in there or something. Like there's something
Yeah,
stamped on it.
yeah. Yeah, and it fits perfectly into the curve of her tail.
Yeah, I love that one. Wow, that's beautiful. Gosh, I myself, I never did any collages. I did one collage and that was it. And I did all other, mediums, but I never really got into collages. But I see how wonderful they can be. You have quite a talent. What do you think about? Oh, I did that while you're collaging. Are there any themes to your collages?
Yes. Lately I've been thinking of spirituality and world religions. So I'll have different um things from world religions. And also lately I've been thinking about music. So I'll have people playing different instruments, and there aren't always themes. Sometimes it's just what looks good. Sometimes it's, like a color. The theme might be color. Sometimes it's a spot in nature, like the one you just saw where it was underwater. And I
Yeah,
was thinking of an underwater world.
that I love that one. Maybe we
Thank
could
you.
see another one. Here we go. Talking about
Oh,
religion.
yeah. That's actually one of the first ones I did after taking a long break. And these are all from my friend, all these images. So I'm eternally grateful for her to getting me back into it. The background is actually an old pillowcase that she didn't want anymore. So that's in the background. And a lot of her, I think she got these from calendars. So I like that there's a monk and then there's a woman praying, little girl praying. And then the other things are from her calendars, but you'll notice how the pictures I've used are very just square. They're not like a lot of little details. I think there's some lace at the bottom of it. But as for my cutting, I didn't really cut out things. It was just putting squares together. And that's how my collaging has changed lately. And then there were some stickers on there, also all from my friend.
Well, stickers you can get at the dollar store and Dollar General,
Oh,
all those other
yeah.
little
I
stickers.
love going to the Dollar Tree and finding stickers
Yeah,
there.
I love it because when you send me lovely cards, you always put these stickers on it, and they're really cute. And it always makes me
Thank
feel
you.
so wonderful when I get those cards. And I want to thank you for that while we're talking here. What inspired you to do this?
Well, I just will see things that seem like they should go together or that would look good together. And then I've got two pieces together. And then I think, well, I need to put something else here because there needs to be a background. And then I'll say, okay, well, I'll just keep it to this size. But it kind of all starts extending. Hard to keep things to a certain size. So now I just kind of say, okay, well, whatever happens, happens. But yeah, it's a lot of just seeing things that seem like they should go together or that are so beautiful that I look at them and a lot of times I say, well, it's not really that I've made this because I'm using all these other people's art. So if it weren't for other people's art and photographs, there wouldn't be any collages.
Well, where do you reside? We never really got to that.
I live in Pittsfield, Massachusetts.
Let's see another one of your lovely collages. Here's another one.
Yeah, that was another of the first ones I did after taking the break. And there's all kinds of goodies I got from my friends. Some things that she had cut out earlier, so I didn't do much cutting. But that theme is fairies and the ethereal. So you've got those dragonflies in the top left corner, and there's also a foil, the gold foil. I think it came from some kind of food or tea, maybe. And yeah, I see something from a tea box that I put there. There's a lot of dragonflies in this one,
Oh, yes. That's lovely.
and some fairies and some nice little um, bears sitting around a table once upon a time. So there's the title that always begins fairy tales.
Okay. I think I got ahead of myself here. Where do you put all these collages you're making? Because I've seen it myself in person, and they're beautiful. Where do you get all this room? Where do you put them?
I'm running out of room and I have a box of, so I kind of I say, okay, I'm going to take these down so I have room for more. Maybe I'll rotate, I don't know, but I've got a big box in my spare room with piles of collages that I decided I would take down to make room for others. So I'm filling up my rooms and I might need to get another apartment if anybody is selling one for an inexpensive price. I can have a whole collage, a whole apartment just for my collages. I joke that soon I'll have to start putting them on my ceilings. So I hang them up on the walls
Yes,
and
I've seen
I
it.
kind of look at them because when I'm making them, I really want to remember how I felt when I was making it, how I felt when everything was coming together, and when I was cutting out these things so mindfully. So I have to hang them up just to keep on looking at them, especially if there's beautiful pictures that are the whole reason I made the collage. It would be a shame to just not ever see them again. So I kind of, it's like a relationship. I've gotten to know my collages and we have to hang out for some time more.
Let's see some more. The one with the room full of collages is really interesting.
Yep,
We
that's
say,
the room over
that's
there.
the room. There we go.
Yeah,
That's a lot of
little bit of,
collages.
I guess, yeah, it's a lot of collages.
When did you put them up? Over the years?
I'm Yes, I can, some of them, that's the room over there, I can look and they've gone back maybe 5 years. Some of them I can count back to maybe 2 years. A few I remember doing about a year ago. So they've all got a little story and past and feeling that go with them.
Oh, that's
I can
lovely.
usually tell you who I was with, where I did the collages, where I got the materials, and sometimes the podcast I was listening to. Oh yeah, that's a box I found, and it just would seem like a shame. It just seemed perfect for a collage. And then there was a card be as the background, a birthday card that somebody gave me. Also, birthday cards, those are another source of collaging. Then on the side of it, on one side, there's from a Buddha tea package, a carton. Then there's some butterflies from calendars and stickers, a lot of stickers there.
Oh, that's.
That was a fun collage to make.
Do you do other art, any other type of art, or is it all collages? I know you do all collages, but I'm not sure what other art you do.
I do a little of Zen Doodle. So it's like making patterns, just simple patterns, that kind of doodle patterns, and you'll like break up a canvas into different sections. And, one might have like little swirls, one might have lines. So that's a fun thing to do when
When
I
did you
don't have my
start?
collages with me, but I still want to do some kind of art or
When did you start
just
that,
doodle.
Jaden?
Well, I've always doodled, just like making patterns, like if I'm nervous or if I'm in a meeting or something, just making marks on paper or circles and then one day I thought it would be nice if I really could make something more interesting that actually is like doesn't look like scribbling. So I started reading about Zen Doodle, and I've got some books on it that say like patterns you can do. So that was about a year ago that I started doing that.
Well, let's see another one of those beautiful collages.
Oh, yes. This has a lot of images of Ganesh from Hinduism, the remover of obstacles. And there's also, oh, another source I forgot is pages from coloring books. So the black and white pictures, those are all from coloring books. And I don't like to color. To me, it feels boring, but I do love to cut out the pictures and fit them in with more colorful images. So there's a lot of images of Krishna and Ganesh, and I see something from a calendar. But at the time, I was thinking, I, I've got some obstacles in my life that I need removed. So I was thinking about Ganesh, and then I decided to just make a whole collage to Ganesh, and there's some stickers in there, of course. Oh yeah, and I see a friend gave me these really delicate tissue paper samurai people, and there's one in the middle, or not in the middle, kind of on the right side, holding a sword
A
over his
sword.
head. And those were interesting to work with because it was a couple of them fell apart, unfortunately, because they were so delicate. So I've got a couple of those in there, and one kind of fell apart. But yeah, and the pictures from the coloring book, these are all from I think it was called Enchanted Evening. It was a fairy coloring book.
Oh, it's lovely. And boy, we're having fun, huh? I told you we'd have fun. It's fun looking at them and you describing them. How do you organize your material?
Right now, I've got a big box, and in that box, I have folders. So they're mostly organized according to size right now. I tried organizing them by themes, and at one time put everything in plastic bags so that the same sizes would be together. But it was hard to see everything in the plastic bags, so I would just prefer to look through things now and go through them one by one. And I have some like um, binders that have things in them so I can look through them. But yeah, big box and folders and binders.
Let's see another one of those collages. Oh,
This is one of the few that I have framed. It just happened to fit into a frame. The others don't. But what I liked in this was that there was a man and a woman in a magazine picture standing over next to the water. So the woman is all white. So it looks like she's a cutout. And I loved the idea of that. And so behind that cutout is another woman so that you can really tell that it's just this white silhouette. And I feel like there must be such an interesting story behind that. It was just an advertisement, but I feel like there could have been an interesting story behind that. And then there was a book about a children's book. I think it was about some trolls. And so I've got pictures from that, also magazines. And then on the right side, behind the woman in red, there's a calendar picture of those wonderful trees and also stickers, because what would a collage be without stickers? And then there was an advertisement, the cow next to the spoon. I think it was it was an advertisement for milk. So that was a lot of fun to do. Because the cow is pretty much the same size as the people in the photo, except with this gigantic spoon.
Oh, we got about 4 minutes left. Half an hour goes by fast.
It sure does.
Let's see another collage. One more.
Oh, yeah. I started this one at the senior center, an art group there. I got these, it, I just like the idea of all these faces and they're kind of all looking at something. What? Or away from something. And this wonderful woman on the left with these wonderful adornments in her hair. And then there's pictures from a book on sketching, and that's the woman in between her and the little girl in red. That was from a book of painting, how to paint. It was a book that they didn't want, a magazine that they were getting rid of. So I got a lot of good materials there. That wonderful owl, because I love to put owls in my paintings. And yeah, I just like the feeling of motion, like all these faces.
Jaden, what is your biggest challenge when making collages?
Sometimes finding materials. I mean, now that's not as much of a problem as it used to be. I mean, because I've got so many materials, but it can be challenging because libraries don't have magazines anymore and that they get rid of, and magazines are expensive. Now I think it's really, instead of not enough materials, too many materials. It can be a challenge to try to figure out what to use, or I have so many things and it's hard to organize them because it's just hard to know how to organize them. You know, do you organize them according to theme or so that can be a challenge. Too many materials and not knowing how to decide. So sometimes I just say, okay, whatever's in front of me, that's what I'm going to use. And maybe look in the big box and find a couple other things to use.
Well, we're almost out of time. Can you believe it?
Thank you for having me.
We've got about, I think, a minute left. And I know your collages are made out of certain materials. Excuse me. But you've kind of went through that. I was going to ask you that question, what kind of materials you use. So mostly from
All kinds.
all kinds. It seems like it's like you don't
Magazines,
stick to one
cards,
particular.
books, pamphlets, flyers,
Well,
coloring books.
and coloring books. That's the only
Yeah.
thing I did when I was a kid, is coloring books, but I had to stay in between the lines.
Ah,
I always,
that's why I don't like to color, I think. Too complicated.
well, we got about 10 seconds left. I'm so happy that you came on the show, Jaden, and you were able to show your beautiful collages. Bye for now. Goodbye, folks.
Bye for now.